Hi everyone. This video is intended to give you some guidance with one of our favorite topics, entering education credits. So we'll go through an example of entering the credits using the traditional method and also the new alternate method, which we've been using for the last month or 6 weeks. So we have an example here of two parents, Spencer and Sandra Jordan, and we're also doing a return for their daughter Charlotte. And when they came in, Charlotte presented a 1098T, this 1098T from Austin Community College. You'll see she was at least a half-time student, and she had $5,000 in scholarship income, and the 1098T reported 2,700 in tuition that was billed. Now, our Cash for College staff helped Charlotte pull her account summary from ACC and found a little bit different story there. She actually spent 2,900 on tuition in 2014, and then she spent 500 in books on books last year. And they also found that the $5,000 in scholarship income was correct, and that all of that money could be used for living expenses, which is an important piece of information for us in doing the alternate calculations for the education credits. So let's go and have a look here at how we should enter the credits on the returns. So in the first or the traditional method of calculating the credits, we see here that, well, she received $5,000 in scholarships, which was clearly more than the 3,400 that's listed here, right? The 2,900 plus 500. So the difference between those two, so if we take, 5,000 minus the 3,400, we get 1,600. So basically, she had $1,600 left over after the tuition and book expenses. So we would go to Charlotte's return because scholarship income is always reported on the student's return. It never goes on mom and dad's return. And to report the scholarship income, got a little ahead of myself here, you would go to the second part of line 7 and then go to worksheet 1, which is where scholarship income is reported, and link to a scratch pad there. So this is what we want to include on the scratch pad. So the full amount of the scholarship income was 5,000, right? And her tuition amount, again, it was 2,900, so we're going to list that as a negative number. And then she also had the $500 in book expenses. And if you scroll down, you'll see the 1,600 is the total scholarship income being reported on the return. Now that actually didn't change anything on her return. It made her AGI go up, but it didn't change her refund amount. So now if we looked at things in the alternate calculation, oops, since all of her scholarship income could be used for living expenses, we can actually do this kind of cool thing where we report all of the scholarship income on her return, and we can give mom and dad an education credit, because remember, education credits always go on the return for whoever is claiming the student's exemption. So in this situation, it would go on the parent's return. So regardless of whether this money was actually used for living expenses, for the purposes of the second alternate calculation, we're going to assume that it was. So we go back to Charlotte's return, and we'll just take out these second two amounts, right? And just list the 5,000 in scholarship income. And you see her refund, it did drop a little bit, although really not so significantly. Now, just to be clear, if this was a no, if the scholarship money could not be used for living expenses, we would have to use the traditional method. So all we would do in this situation is report the $1,600 in scholarship income on Charlotte's return. But because this money can be used for living expenses, we can look at the second method. So again, Charlotte's refund went down a little bit. Now let's go to mom and dad's return. Okay, so right now they don't have an education credit on their return, and they're getting a refund of 1442. So let's go down now to the 8863, and I've already filled in part of it here. Charlotte's within her first 4 years of undergrad, so and she hasn't been convicted of a felony, so she is eligible for the American Opportunity Credit. So then we would go to line 27 and link to a scratch pad. And let's see, what was it? It was 2,900. So we're going to list the full amount, 2,900 of the tuition, and that was actually just fall tuition, wasn't it? And the full amount of her book expenses here. And you can see that the parents' refund just jumped up significantly. So overall for this family, it was a much better bet to do the education credits this way. If you go to the second page of the 1040 for the parents, you'll see they got a $1,410 non-refundable education credit, which reduced their tax liability pretty significantly. And then remember, in some cases, American Opportunity is also part of it can be refundable. So they're receiving $940 as part of their refund. So this is a huge benefit to this family. So always good to check if this alternate calculation could help people out. So if you need any more information on doing these education credits, please check out the volunteer resources page. There's actually an education credits section here which has step-by-step instructions on doing the traditional method, calculating the traditional method, as well as this instructions for working with clients with Form 1098-T. This shows examples of doing it both ways. There are also some helpful videos here. And the IRS volunteer tax alert that came out related to this, you can have a look at that too if you like. It came out earlier in the tax filing season. So good luck with your education credits.